Wait, that's the wrong movie franchise.
Yep, very wrong. Anyway.
Welcome to the MCU review, and it's time, baby! I'm so excited.
Best movie of Phase 1, Avengers.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna call it the best movie of Phase 1 yet, but I am gonna say that this movie is phenomenal.
It is.
And it's one of the strongest movies of this phase.
Yes.
It's one of the strongest movies we've reviewed so far, and it's so big, and there's so much going on, that instead of doing a synopsis, because I don't think that I can do this one justice, what I'm going to recommend, go watch the movie!
Watch the movie. We cannot emphasize enough on how good this movie is and how much, even though it was made in 2014, how good it is in comparison to now.
How good it holds up.
Or
how well
14 or 12?
2012.
2012. So how good it still holds up in 2012.
And
from 2012 to 2021.
I'm going to channel my inner Ivan ooze for you all right now. If you know, you know. Watch it with your parents. Watch it with your friends. When you got the Avengers, the fun never ends. All right. So we'll just dive right into the story, I guess.
All right, so story ranking.
The individual story. This movie is wild.
It is. I ranked it as an 8 out of 10. It is an excellent movie. Very, very, very good, but that doesn't mean that it's perfect. It is slow at the beginning, but that's because they have to get together.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that holds it back a little bit because it is just slower than what it could be.
Right. We see... So the movie, how it all goes, the story is wild. So it starts with S.H.I.E.L.D. agency and Loki coming out. We only see one of the future Avengers. We see Hawkeye. And I'm not doing a full synopsis. And Fury, but one of the actual Avengers, one of the six, the core six. So Hawkeye gets converted, and that's how that scene pretty much goes down.
Loki comes out of the Tesseract with the scepter and does that,
and blows up a place. And we don't know this yet, but he's got 2 Infinity Stones. He leaves with 2 Infinity Stones.
I don't even know if he fully understood
I don't think he understood that either.
No, he didn't. He thought the scepter and the Tesseract were the same thing.
Yeah. So, that's insane.
Yeah.
Then we get to meet Natasha Romanoff doing her thing. Well, we get to re-meet her.
Yeah.
Natasha's great.
Yeah. Scarlett Johansson being
always a winner.
Very attractive.
No matter what she's wearing.
Coulson calls her kidnapper, and then he gives her the phone. She's just like, no, I'm having this guy tell me everything. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
We need you to talk to get Bruce. All right, then. Beats him down, and then gets him.
Yeah, then we get to
meet Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner.
We do, who is best Bruce Banner.
It is. By far, Ruffalo is one of the best Bruce Banners.
I think he's the best Bruce Banner we've ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been quite a few, and this isn't a knock on the old school ones, this isn't a knock on Edward Norton, this is just he's really good.
He is excellent at playing the Bruce Banner who has been Hulk for a long time.
Yeah, he was the right person for the job.
He has been Hulk for at least 6 years.
Yep.
And he is just there as, I know how to handle Hulk now, and I know how to keep me out of that state.
Then we get introduced to Tony currently.
Yeah.
Who
is with Pepper building Stark Tower.
Yeah. Wait, Stark Tower. For how long though?
Yeah.
And then we get reintroduced to, who's the next one? I think it's Cap next.
No, Cap's the last one.
No, Thor is last.
Oh yeah.
So we get reintroduced to Cap, and
then Cap's flying with Iron Man and Coulson tells him that he watched him while he was sleeping.
This was before Iron Man arrived. It was weird.
No, Iron Man was
in Germany. Iron Man doesn't meet him till Germany.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So, then he meets...
And then
they meet Ruffalo when they get on the helicarrier. If you blink and you'll miss it, Cap actually hands Nick Fury $10. He hands him 10 because he makes a bet with him early in the movie.
He made a bet with him.
You didn't catch that when we watched it, did you?
Yeah. So they made a bet of, hey, you can't do anything that'll surprise me anymore because I'm from the 40s. I'm now in the 2010s. You can't do anything that'll surprise me. Then the helicarrier takes off into the sky, and then he hands him $10 the helicarrier going into the sky instead of underwater scared him.
Caught him off guard.
Yeah.
The movie is brilliant. It's slow at the beginning, but once it gets going, once the traction, it takes a second to catch its traction, which is something that Iron Man actually says in the movie. But once they catch that traction, man, this movie just was off, and also, it was so good.
Didn't mention Selvig does get taken captive by Loki also, and that's how they're trying to find out how to open a portal continuously.
Yep.
And Selvig's like, hey, I need a guy's eye. Guess what Loki goes and does?
It was horrifying.
Loki goes to a party and puts a guy on a table, sticks a thing into his eye and steals it, while Hawkeye goes and steals whatever thing he needs to take.
Iridium, I think?
Something like that.
Some idiom.
Yeah.
And then, the movie just, once it starts going, once the movie gets the traction, it's really good. It's really going.
The helicarrier, I think that's whenever it just takes off the helicarrier.
Then they're in Germany. Well, the helicarrier is after this part.
Yeah.
We skipped this
We're
part.
skipping a lot of stuff.
But we're just skipping around wherever we want.
It's a really good story. It's an individual story. I ranked it as a 9 out of 10. There wasn't a lot. There was a couple of things they could do to make it better, like picking up, like having an after credit scene in Thor that was more of Selvig and what's his name, Barton working together in the facility.
Or
that would have been like, okay, it's a seamless transition now, and it's just you immediately start with traction already. But they had to reestablish a little traction.
Or in Captain America, which was the last one that happened before Avengers. They had Cap, instead of it just showing his intro scene where Fury walks up to him and is like, hey, I need you to join the Avengers, having him show having that ending of that one show more of either Loki getting out of wherever he is, or even Loki meeting with Thanos, because we know that happens, but just Loki talking to a darkened figure about how he has to go back to Earth and then a portal opening. I think that would have been significantly more into it and would have made it feel a little bit more connected than showing Captain America, the first Avenger. They put it in the movie, and then the ending after credits is him joining the Avengers.
Yeah. There were ways they could have made it with more traction, but they also had to make it so that it was its own freestanding movie, which can be hard to do with.
And because it's the first one of all these characters meeting, it has to go a little bit slower. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just because it does that, I can't rank it much higher than an 8.
That's fair.
But how it affects the MCU overall, 10 out of 10. Perfect.
Oh my god.
There is nothing better they could have done to make it affect the MCU more.
2 Infinity Stones.
Sets up the best villain in the series.
It does.
Sets up the Avengers overall.
Without name dropping him, might I add.
No.
They released the big bad for 8 years before he's actually shown, and
The Chitauri,
they don't even name him.
The Chitauri work under Thanos. Loki was hired by Thanos.
They do a lot. It's
the only person who knew that Thanos was a person at this time of the people we know is Loki, and Loki never mentioned him. Loki took it as, no, I'm doing this on my own free will.
And he was. For all intents and purposes. It's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in this movie, and it sets up everything else moving forward. It sets up the events of Iron Man 3. It sets up the events of Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
It sets up the Dark World.
That one, not as much.
Not as much, but it does set it up.
In the terms of, so it sets up the Dark World in the terms of Loki is captured.
Yeah.
And Thor and Loki are in Asgard and Loki's captured. That's about what it sets up for that one, but how it gives Tony PTSD.
It does.
Which is what he has in Iron Man 3. It sets up for S.H.I.E.L.D. to be taken down. Mm-hmm.
It also foreshadows a lot of...
it foreshadows for Civil War, because this is the first time that a city got destroyed, and it was downtown New York, and that's what sets up
this
for
sets up Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah. No, in it, that's...
It does.
Yeah.
It sets up so much. This movie is so important to the franchise. It's so important to movies in general.
This is the movie that the most amount of other movies talk about when they're talking about things that happened in the past. Because this is also the first time that full-on regular people know that aliens have invaded Earth.
Let's go ahead and dive into characters, and we have a lot.
We got a lot of main characters. All right, main characters. All right, let's just start from the top of our list. We got Iron Man.
Iron Man, he feels like he moved backwards a little bit, but a lot of it is, I think, he needed to be ranked lower. I ranked him as a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think he's ranked a little lower, mostly because he's kind of vain, he's very ego-driven, and he's not the final product.
I think he's spiteful also.
Yeah.
So, I also ranked him as a 7 out of 10. And I think he's spiteful, in case you guys didn't remember it. In Iron Man 2, they said that Iron Man was viable for the Avengers, but Tony Stark was not. And I think Tony being there, he's doing it out of spite on being a jerk about it for all of the Avengers because he wasn't accepted into their group.
And he also is trying to act like the de facto leader because he's the smartest person in the room.
In fairness, he is.
He is.
The only person that's close to him is Bruce Banner. And Tony and Bruce are both exceedingly smart, and they are both by far the smartest. But Tony has a little bit more on combat knowledge because he made weapons and he fights in the Iron Man suit. Bruce Banner doesn't always remember what Hulk does. And I think that's the only difference.
And the other reason that I put Iron Man this low is it's just he keeps trying to take command of everything and boss people around, but he's not the most competent person when it comes to what's going on. He doesn't have the mindset of someone that's in combat.
No, and I think exactly what Cap said in the scene is exactly what needed to be said. You are not the person to.
You're not the sacrifice play person.
You're not the sacrifice play person. You're not the person that'll
You're not a
crawl
hero.
on the line and let people walk over you. Because Tony's immediate reaction is, I would cut it. He just wouldn't let people get close to him. And that's the problem. You can't, if you need someone to beat you so that way you can defeat them overall, you have to let that happen, and he wouldn't. He'd be too egotistical about needing to be the person that wins.
And he doesn't understand that there's not always a way out.
Yeah, but
He's never had to experience it because he's always been the smartest person in the room. He can think his way out of it.
The only time he's been in a spot where he's like, I can't think of a way out of this, and someone showed him, was his dad. And since his dad is dead, he thinks he is the smartest person and no one can be smarter than him.
Yep.
And
Cap shows a level of restraint with him.
Well, let's move on to Captain America
Let's
now,
do that.
so that way we can talk about him. Because he's a 10 out of 10. Captain America is exactly what he needed to be. He is the person in charge because he knows the most about war. And that's
maybe
what
not the most amount because Thor is there, but he understands everybody's strengths. He's the best leader of this group. He understands everybody's strengths and weaknesses. He trusts people to be able to handle it. And he's not asking them to do anything he's afraid of doing.
Yeah.
He's asking them to do things that he just can't do because he knows that they can do it better.
And Cap, a big difference between Captain America and Iron Man in the terms of leadership. Mm-hmm. Iron Man can take orders, but when he gives them, he expects everyone to know as much as he does. Cap understands he doesn't know everything, and he asks people that are smarter than him to give him advice, so that way he can give them the right answers.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference. Iron Man thinks he knows everything, but he doesn't. Cap understands he doesn't know everything and asks for help.
And it still makes the best. He makes the decision that he believes is best. And
Yes.
it's not always correct, which we'll see later on in future movies.
Next, we got Hulk / Bruce Banner. This is the movie where I think actually they are one character instead of two separates.
Yeah.
And I ranked him as an 8 out of 10. I really, really I love Mark Ruffalo. I think Mark Ruffalo is the perfect Bruce Banner. I don't think anyone could really play Bruce Banner better.
Yeah.
And how they made Hulk in this movie in comparison to the 2008 one. The 2008 one, my biggest complaint was that he was super veiny, and I understood it. This one, he still has that, but it looks like he has muscle over the veins. It's not just all vein.
Yeah.
And it looks way better.
It doesn't look like Bane freaking out on a roid rage.
It looks so much better.
I put it as a 7 out of 10, and this isn't because I disliked Mark Ruffalo. I just think that there was more we could get from the character, and I feel like he didn't have enough screen time to really show the difference in the dichotomy between Bruce and Hulk.
No.
And there just couldn't be in this movie.
But that's also because they made a movie that was supposed to be the dichotomy of Hulk and Bruce, but then that one just didn't do very well on explaining that dichotomy. And it gets explained significantly better in a future movie that isn't even about him.
Yeah. Next up is
Hawkeye.
I really liked Hawkeye in this movie, but
Hawkeye,
going back through it in my head, based on who he is, I think he's an 8 out of 10.
That's fair.
I don't think he had enough to show the humor of Hawkeye.
I put him as a 7 out of 10. I'll put that out there. And my reasoning for that is the first half of the movie, he is not Hawkeye.
He's an antagonist.
He's an antagonist that is being partially controlled, so we don't get to see Hawkeye actually be himself.
And then
once he gets to be himself, he's an excellent character, and I loved every scene with him.
Yep.
But it's because that first half he couldn't be that, but he had to do that.
Yeah. It kind of hurts.
I understand it, but
don't
that
worry,
doesn't mean I
Hawkeye
like it.
gets his time to shine.
I understand
quite a
it.
bit.
It doesn't mean I like it.
Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson.
She's very, very attractive. I try to keep that out of my own opinions.
And that had nothing to do with this. She is very competent, very useful, and very smart in this entire movie. She's not the smartest.
No.
She is not the...
she also understands her own limits better than everyone else there.
Except for maybe Cap.
No.
Cap might know her limits a little better than she does.
No, Black Widow understands her limits more than Cap understands her own limits, and she understands her own limits better than Cap knows his own limits. Black Widow understands she is nothing more than just a human with guns, but she has to do what she can to help save the world.
Right.
The only person that's equal to her in that is Hawkeye, and that's because, again, Hawkeye is just, I'm a guy with a bow and arrow.
Which is a really funny line.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Anyway.
And then Thor.
Well, we didn't say. I gave her an 8 out of 10.
I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, she's very, very good. Just if she were, I don't know how to put it. If she could have shown a little bit more leadership, I guess.
But she's not a leader, and that's the whole thing.
Yes, but also she is.
She becomes.
She understands how to give orders and she understands how to take them, but she couldn't like give her own opinion on anything.
Not really.
And that's a problem because she can't give her own opinion in this. In a future movie, it makes sense why she can't give her own opinion.
Yeah.
In this one, when everything's going crazy, her saying, "Hey, I think you and I should do this type of thing," would have made more sense.
Yeah.
Now, her cracking jokes with Barton, I loved. I just wish they could.
Oh yeah, no, that relationship, and they kept
That
it
is my
completely
favorite.
platonic.
That's one of my favorite relationships in the MCU.
My favorite relationship we'll talk about in a future movie,
All right.
but
Thor. Again, a 7 out of 10.
yeah, 7 out of 10.
It felt like he regressed a little bit.
Just too Shakespearean.
Yeah.
And
Well, not even just that. It felt like he regressed a little bit. He felt that he was the best person for every job, even though in the last movie he had shown that he isn't.
and he not only recognized that by the end, he took orders from Cap.
Yeah.
And like in the comics, that Thor has once stated that
The only human he would listen to is Captain America.
because it just
The only human he would listen to is Steve Rogers specifically,
Yeah.
not Captain America.
Steve Rogers, and I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that relationship really starts to grow here, and we do see that. We also get to see his sense of humor.
Yes.
He was adopted. Like that was a great joke.
I know.
I kept it that character. It was good.
Don't talk bad about him. That's my brother. He did this. He's adopted.
It's really funny.
But yeah, no. He's a very, very good character. Just again, he's showing more Chris Hemsworth with that, but he's not acting like a regular person still.
Yeah.
I think that really shows in a future movie that also is an Avengers movie.
Yeah,
I think that's the time when he finally starts showing himself.
yeah, and it's great once we get there. But Thor, I think, might be the weakest of these characters in this one, and that's just
Yes.
because again, they're just not letting Chris Hemsworth be himself.
Actually, I think Hawkeye is the weakest, and it's entirely because he's taken over for the first half.
That's a fair.
In which, in the second half of in the last third of the movie to the last half of the movie, he is slightly better than Thor, but it's because of that first bunch.
Yeah.
Because it is a good portion of the movie that he can't be himself.
Yeah.
And that hurts it a lot. And his interaction with Black Widow is very limited because he's not there.
Right.
And that's what helps him a lot.
Right. No, yeah, 100%.
All right.
But now
we're
we
gonna
got
move on to villains. All right, villain time.
Loki.
So,
Let's just start with Loki.
fine. All right, 10 out of 10.
Loki is amazing in this movie.
Loki is exactly what he needed to be. He thinks himself as better than literally everyone in the world.
He goes on a serious god. He's a god on a god complex. That's funny.
Yeah, and then the thing that breaks the god complex, puny god.
That would break anyone. If he wasn't a god, he was dead.
Well, no, gods can die. We see that in a future movie.
No, I'm saying if he wasn't a god and had like a god durability, he would
if he didn't have advanced durability, he would be dead. But yeah, no.
Oh yeah, no, his spine broken, his ribs broken, his neck broken, his skull
everything's
broken.
He can't move.
Ugh.
And puny god is one of the best lines in that movie.
It comes up later.
It does.
It's super good. Loki's incredible in this movie. Tom Hiddleston is a treasure. He is a national treasure. He's not even an American, but he is an American treasure.
No, he's a world treasure.
He's a world treasure. That's fair.
Yeah, he's an international treasure.
He's like the Library of Alexandria.
Anyway,
he's a
Loki
world treasure.
definitely gets a 10 out of 10. He's exactly what he needs to be. I wouldn't change anything about his character in this movie.
Or his arc in this movie.
No.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Next,
the Chitauri.
The Chitauri,
again, what they needed to be.
Yeah, I put them as a 6 out of 10. They're there to be defeated.
Yep.
In which, that's perfectly fine. But when they're there just to be defeated, they're above average for what they needed to be because they're aliens. It's the first time aliens have ever invaded Earth.
Yep.
From what most humans know. We know that the Destroyer and Thor are technically aliens, but still, this is the first time aliens have truly invaded. Oh, and we don't know that the Skrulls have invaded Earth, but they have at this point.
It's the first time it's public knowledge that aliens.
It's the first time in public knowledge that aliens exist.
Yep.
And that's a cool thing, and that's why they're above average. They're a 6. I don't want to rank them higher than a 6 because they're not great villains, but as a group, for exactly what they needed to be, and for slightly outside of exactly what they needed to be, they're above average.
I put them at average. I put them as a 5 out of 10, mostly because they're carried by Loki, and they're not in enough of the movie to like they're there for exactly what they needed to be as plot, like as the plot element.
Yeah.
But they're not. There's no characterization. They're there to fight.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's perfectly fine. But I can't rank them above average because they're not anything more than what they are.
Like I said, the only reason they're above
Except
average,
for the Jonah moment.
Yeah. The only reason they're above average is entirely because aliens are real. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And that's
I love aliens.
But we're gonna move on to our side characters now.
Let's do this.
Side characters. Let's start with the big one. Coulson.
My boy.
Yeah.
They killed my boy.
Did. Coulson. This is why I forgot how much Coulson was in, because the first time I ever watched this movie, I hadn't watched the rest of them in a while, and I was like, I don't even remember who Coulson is. Now I'm just like, oh god, he's in so many of these, and he made connections with everyone except for Hulk.
And he's dead.
Yeah.
Stabbed through the chest, and you're to blame. Yu-Gi-Oh! The card game.
But then he shoots Loki, and that was funny.
That was hilarious.
Oh,
That's what he literally cold cocks him.
Yeah.
This big old cannon attached to his chest. Skyrockets in Flight Afternoon Delight, buddy. Coulson is really good in this movie.
I put him as an 8 out of 10.
I have to up it. I forgot about how funny that scene was, like in hindsight. Just cold cocking Loki.
But yeah, no, it is
8 out of 10. Yeah.
It is an excellent scene. Coulson is an excellent character. If he could have been in more of the series, like if he could have been in more of the MCU,
I wish he hadn't died.
It would have been excellent. I wish that this was more of like he got stabbed but in a non-vital spot, but he needed to die because he's the one that everyone had a connection to.
Except Banner.
Except for Banner, but Banner was just like, well, if everyone else is connected to him, I guess I'll be connected to him too.
These guys seem cool.
Yeah.
But if there's anybody that's going to be able to stop me if Hulk goes on a killing rampage, like, it's these guys.
Yeah. But next, so Fury's right hand got destroyed. Fury's left hand still alive. Maria Hill.
And you know what? If that's the left hand, you're still okay.
And now she's
Colby
his right hand.
Smulders is also a national treasure, a global treasure too.
So I ranked Maria Hill as a 7 out of 10. She is great. The only thing,
she just doesn't get enough time to really show off, which is why I ranked her as a 6 out of 10. She's above average in what we got from her. We just didn't get enough from her.
For me, it's shown that Coulson's the one that interacts with the Avengers. Maria's the one that interacts with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And because she's the one that's like in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. directly under Fury, and we see her like telling everyone how to do the flight and stuff, I think that's where it's really good.
And this character just gets better.
Yeah.
This is her weakest showing.
Yeah.
But
also,
oh my god.
Also, her being under S.H.I.E.L.D. when it's getting destroyed, taking the Tesseract, almost dying, but then didn't die, and Fury's really worried about her. I really liked that scene too. That's why I have it as
she's so good. I know that she gets better. This is her starting point, and
it's
by
excellent.
the end of the next movie she's in, her character, like she's
Her character
almost a 10
skyrockets.
out of 10. In the next one, she might be a 10 out of 10.
I
as
don't
her
think
side
she's
character.
quite a 10 out of 10 because of other side characters that are in it, along with who the main characters are.
It's a good.
It's a very, very good showing, but it's going to be hard to get a 10
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you guys, it's very hard to get a 10 out of 10 as a side character. It's hard to get above a 7 as a side character.
There's only a few that have done it.
Yeah, and Coulson's one, for me.
Yeah.
Fury. Again, I have to give it a 7 out of 10. He is very, very good. He has great scenes. But if he were in the fight, like even in just a plane or something, trying to help out, or directing more people,
Yeah.
like,
but the
having-
helicarrier being down, like he's staying with his ship, he's
Yeah.
staying with his people, he's doing the right thing.
if he could have gotten S.H.I.E.L.D. to help out the police or something, at least communicated, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s gonna back you up, and then you see S.H.I.E.L.D. officers coming in from
Yeah,
Fury
that'd
saying
be
that.
awesome.
I think that would have put him slightly above a 7, but I can't rank him above a 7
Yeah.
because he's just not in it enough.
And there just wasn't the opportunity to
Yeah.
do so. And then Selvig is the last one.
What, you didn't say your ranking for Fury.
Oh, he's a 7 out of 10. I
All right.
agree.
Yeah, and then Eric Selvig, I ranked him as a 6 out of 10. He doesn't break out of his capture till right at the end,
When he gets hit really hard in the head.
so we don't get to see him acting. But so he's slightly above average because he's very smart, and it's interesting that he built a wormhole,
Wormhole!
and a giant worm does come out of the hole.
Multiple giant worms come out of the hole.
Yeah, but I wish that he could have been in.
Thor also has a lot of fun with his hammer with said hole.
Yeah,
That sounds really dirty when you put it like that, but I mean, he does,
Yeah.
and I'm not wrong.
so I
Aaron-
ranked him as a 6 out of 10.
out of 10, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I gotta give the actor props here, though. He is a person acting as a character that is under the control of another person.
Yeah.
So he's like
He's
acting inside of an acting, like it's wild.
He's an actor acting.
He's an actor acting as a person that's acting. It's
Yeah.
wild.
But it's very good. But with that, I think we'll move on to cinematography and choreography.
Oh yeah.
All right, cinematography.
Cinematography.
Camera work in this movie is excellent.
Oh my god.
There's only a few faults with it, and that's entirely just because they're still early in it. There's still some scenes where it's like, I think a great scene that's a little bit too dark. Like if they had lightened it up a little bit, it would have been better. But with how dark it was, it made sense. Was Hulk attacking Natasha? It made sense why it was
the
that
power
dark.
was out,
Like-
and they're in the the cargo hold.
It made sense why it was that dark. But if it had a little bit more light, I think it would have made the scene even scarier. In all honesty,
But
like,
it was-
seeing Hulk slightly instead of it being dark and then he appears. But seeing him in the background and then him running forward would have been scary.
That light though that they used for the piping to keep track of piping with the fog that was already emitting.
No, it's
that
excellent.
was a beautifully shot
It's
scene.
excellent.
The choreography in that scene was amazing. And what's her name? Scarlett Johansson does a lot of her own stunts.
She does.
Oh my God, is that woman talented?
Yeah, no, she's exceedingly talented. Like, but that's one scene. Honestly, them in downtown New York with all the rubble, sometimes it can just be a bit much. Like, I understand that New York's completely destroyed, but like, them getting hit. Why don't they get hit by any rubble at all? Why don't certain things that just don't make logical sense? That if they had just like shown Cap hitting some rubble away from it into Chitauri or something, or
anything.
Black Widow or Hawkeye hiding under rubble instead of just behind cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that type of thing where the city's destroyed. Because it's destroyed, there's these things everywhere. Why is no one acting with that stuff?
Yeah.
But choreography, or what your opinion on camera work?
The camera work was great.
Yeah.
I think that there might have been some things. There are things that I think this is one of the last movies where we're going to say the camera work has room to be improved. I don't think there's a lot of movies left in the MCU.
There's not a lot
because they
more.
pretty much knock it out of the park moving forward.
Yeah,
there's like maybe two.
There's
but
two,
overall,
maybe three more.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think they're all
Almost
phase
every
2.
other one. Yes.
No,
Yes.
there's one in phase 3, I think. But
I'm not sure. I know at least 3 in phase 2 for me.
like, there's a little bit to be improved, but overall, like, it's just
In which
incredible.
we're not going to rank all of those 10 out of 10. We're going to be very nitpicky on that, but for the most part, like in comparison to other movies, it could easily be a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 for all of them, even if we rank it as a 6.
Yeah.
It could be just, even though it's a 6, there are movies in comparison to this that have really bad camera work, and this would be a 10 out of 10 in comparison. But in comparison to the rest of the MCU, it's just not as polished.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine because it was still amazing.
Yes.
Choreography.
I honestly, after talking about it more, I think I have to rank it a little bit higher as a 10 out of 10. I had it as a 9. The choreography in this movie, the only problem I had with it was on how people have to fight, but more I think about it, that's just how they have to. There's not you don't get a choice in that. Thor's using every power he has, Hulk's using every power he has, Cap, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. My favorite fighting scene is when Hawkeye runs out of arrows.
That was brilliant. He pulls one out, he clicks it for the thing.
For the rope.
Then shoots down, goes down. He collects, I think, a couple arrows, like between scenes.
He's mainly just using daggers to fight from then on, or his bow.
Or just individual arrows and just stabbing people with an arrow. Like, he's fighting very creatively.
He's fighting with a limited resource, unlike most other people.
Captain America's fighting resource is his stamina. Thor's is
his stamina and lightning.
Yeah.
Hulk is unstoppable. There's not much you can do with Hulk. Also, think about how much Thor was fighting after getting stabbed.
Yeah, I know.
He got stabbed in the gut by Loki and then just kept going. Iron Man's is if his suit is still durable, and then he gets a new suit.
Captain America gets shot out of a window and lands on a car.
And just gets up and keeps going.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, he
gets up a little slow.
He's like, oh, that did not feel good. I think I think a few of my ribs are broken here, but gotta keep. Oh, one of my favorite things was Captain America, Freedom Turtle.
That was hilarious.
Whenever
he curls up in a ball,
he goes into a ball and his entire body's hidden behind the shield. Freedom Turtle.
That's what gets him blasted out of a window.
Yeah, he Freedom Turtles a lot when he's in like complete danger because he knows my shield's indestructible.
Indestructible.
It cannot. Nothing can break it.
Yeah.
And so he just gets hit by things and he just, well, that happened, but at least none of my body parts are gone.
Yeah, I could still stand. Choreography's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fighting scenes, they take the limited things that each character can do
and does it really well
and make it interesting and free flowing and quick. And the pacing's amazing.
The only person I wish we got to see another type of fighting that they could have done was we don't really get to see Black Widow use the Widow Bites.
Not yet.
Well, she has them. She had them in Iron Man 2.
Not in this movie. I don't think it would have fit with
the electric gauntlets.
But oof, so good.
Excellent. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it was really good.
All right, our overall enjoyment. Do we want to just get into it?
Let's just do it.
All right, overall enjoyment. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. This movie
is near perfect.
And you know what? I can watch this movie by myself and I'll have a good time.
No, absolutely. A 9 out of 10 is a movie that I would happily sit down and watch at any time if I really just want to watch a really good movie. A 10 out of 10 movie is a movie that does something perfectly. It doesn't have to do the entire movie perfectly, but it does at least one thing completely perfectly.
This is nearly there.
It is nearly there, but it is just under it because there are just a couple things in each spot.
Early going traction is basically the biggest issue.
Yeah, because it has to be slower at the beginning, it can't be perfect yet. But it is so close. If the beginning part didn't have to be slow, it would be.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. This movie we got to watch this together.
We brought it in,
we watched it with the team. Chris, who's behind the camera right now, he got to watch it with us. And it's so much more fun to watch these movies with people.
It is. It really is.
And that is going to slightly skew our views. So like I said at the beginning, watch it with your parents, watch it with your friends. When you got the Avengers, the fun never ends.
And also, again, we try to be as objective as possible, but subjectivity is a thing. You can't be perfectly objective with anything. Once you have seen it, you have your own opinions on it. And your own opinions can't be perfectly objective. And
no matter how hard we try.
Yeah. But we try to be as possible. The only one that is completely subjective is this ranking, the overall enjoyment. And our overall enjoyment of this movie is so high.
It's so much
good.
fun.
I couldn't imagine a better movie that we could watch right now.
I can think of a few movies that I like more, but like very
like
few and far
off the
between.
top of my head, it is very hard to think of a movie I would rather watch than Avengers again.
It was so much fun to watch together, and that is going to finish up all of Phase 1 and Captain Marvel. We've got the timeline from Captain America to Avengers now done.
Yeah. We've got from the 40s to 2012.
Yeah.
So.
And we've been introduced to two Infinity Stones.
Infinity Stones. We don't know at the time they're two different ones. We think that they're one, but yeah, two different Infinity
Stones.
Stones.
Super good. Hope you guys have enjoyed the MCU review. We are going to check out. Thank you for checking in.